The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
Obviously, we over budgeted last year. I hate to say that I was right, but I was right. So.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
I take our constitutional rights, the constitutional rights of my constituents, very seriously.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
Mr. Speaker, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you boil this down, there is never any time that a parent's right to govern what their children see and what they're exposed to should ever be bypassed.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Where they've ever said, no state, you have no police powers to do what's needed to be done. This power rests with us. So what this bill does is if there is a fire, like a lightning strike, and it's in the summer and it's really hot and we know things are going to explode, the governor can issue an emergency and send state resources up to put out that fire before it becomes thousands and thousands of acres. And then we ask the Attorney General to try to recover the costs for that fighting with a civil action. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to do something or we're not going to have a tree left in this state. And we're not going to have any watersheds or wildlife left. So that's what this bill's about. Thank you.
Thank you, good lady. You've heard the motions. For debate on the motion, Gentleman 7.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, to debate in favor of the bill.
Someone has the floor.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the state is compelled to do this strictly because of the incompetence of our federal agencies. The Forest Service and the BLM purposely let these fires grow. They do not attack them to try to put them out. They let them grow so they can become project fires. And then they can throw millions and millions of dollars at them for their agency to have work for their employees. And they come right out and tell you that. They tell you, we have this under 10% containment. That means they're following behind the fire, letting it go wherever it wants to go, and putting out the ashes as the fire burns itself out. It's criminal. 60 years ago, people would have been prosecuted and put in jail for arson for what the federal government is doing right now to our forest. The Frank Church River of No Return used to be the most beautiful scenic float probably in the nation. Go float that now. See what they've done to Idaho's pristine Frank Church River of No Return. It's destroyed. It looks like a nuclear bomb went off. and they're proud of it. That's nature taking its course. Yes, it is. If man doesn't have to live there and doesn't want to take advantage of the beauty city, 2 generations from now, 3 generations, in 200 years, it might look pristine again. That doesn't do your kids any good. It doesn't do my kids any good. It doesn't do their kids any good. So we're to the part where we have to take drastic measures. I applaud the good lady for bringing this bill, and push has come to shove. It's time for us to take action and do what has to be done to protect our own forests. So good bill, really needs to pass.
For the debate on the motion, gentleman 14.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate in favor.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First off, I don't know if I could put it any better than the gentleman from 7 with his lease, how he describes the federal government and their ability to fight fires. But this, to me, is probably one of the best bills that have come across this body this session. It goes up beyond what we actually think about when it comes to our power as a state, and it makes sure that we flex our muscles, we flex our arms, and take the power back to the state. And then it gives us the ability to go back and use our attorney general to go after the feds to recoup the costs of stuff that they should be doing. But I just want to thank the good lady for bringing this bill, because this has been by far my favorite bill of this session. So good bill. Hopefully it passes. Thank you.
For debate on the motion, good lady from 6.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate in favor of the bill.
Lady has the floor.
Thank you. And number one, I want to thank the good lady from 9 because our district in 6,
All right, folks, you heard it there from Representative Tanner, the best bill this session or something like that. Yeah, I mean, this is, considering all of the news that wildfires have made this year so far, the fact that, as Representative Charlie Shepard there pointed out, that the feds just sort of follow the fire wherever it goes rather than put it out, it's criminal. And if this bill will enable the state to just go put it out before it does any damage, then yeah, this is a no-brainer. It sounds like to me. I'm sure it does. I'm sure it sounds like to you. We'll continue to listen to this. We've got Democrat John Gannon standing up. I'm wondering if there is any opposition to this. Let's actually listen in a little bit.
In particular, is subject to the Tort Claims Act, which requires notice within 180 days. So if the state government is negligent, or a political subdivision is negligent in causing a fire, then there's a 180-day limit. However, section 4 on page 2, 14 through 16 gives a 10-year statute of limitations against a private person. And a statute of limitations of 10 years is very, very unusual in our code. And it is unusual for a reason, because witnesses die, evidence is destroyed, evidence disappears. It's difficult to find somebody who might be a key witness, might have moved to another state. And so a 10-year statute of limitations is way too generous. And I really, other than child sexual abuse, and I think there's a couple of some criminal statutes, we don't have 10 years to file lawsuits, civil lawsuits. So it's unfair, because the state, you're going to have to sue the state, you're going to have to get your tort claim in within 180 days. And with this, if you're a private person, 9 years and 6 months, you might be facing a lawsuit, and all your witnesses are gone, your evidence is gone, and you're at a disadvantage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For debate on the motion, good lady from 19.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate?
Lady has the floor.
And I'm not going to argue that we don't have a problem, and I appreciate what the good gentleman.
Okay,
from-
moving along here. Looks like the Democrats have found their issue. The statute of limitations is too long. We don't want to sue the federal government. Blah blah blah. Gotcha. Okay. One of our producers here said maybe whatever fires we fight on federal land, we get to annex and then own in the state. So since we took care of it, not a bad idea. Maybe we could do a trailer bill. Okay, over in the Senate, we don't have to check in over there, but they're busy going away. They're going through some appropriation bills, from some budget bills and such. But welcome everybody. We are firing away. It is no pun intended, or maybe, I don't know. But what's the date? It's March 19. It's Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. And I am here with you. You're here with me. And I thank you for being live. If you are listening or watching an archive version later today, which we know a lot of people do, just a reminder, idahosignal.live. You can listen to us on like it's like the radio. It's like just tuning in on the go. You keep your data. You don't have to chew up so much data or data, and you can listen live there. idahosignal.live. Also, leave us a voicemail. We want some more voicemails before we go off the air. We're going to be going off the air soon, folks. I know it's hard to believe, but we're going to be going off the air soon. So get your voicemail in now. 208-402-4915. Leave us your rant. Tell us how well we're doing. Tell us what you missed. Tell us what we failed on. It happens. We've been, throughout the weeks, we try and book guests, and I try to give priority to our legislators, especially our pledge signers. And, we saw a couple of them earlier. They're Josh Tanner, Charlie Shepard, Judy Boyle, all pledge signers in good standing, and moving forward good legislation on the most part. But sometimes we invite people and they just can't seem to make it. And hopefully in the off season we'll catch up with them. We'll do some non-live content and do some interviews and stuff. So we don't want to disappear completely once legislation goes away. But in order to do that, in order to keep the fires burning, in order to keep the signal broadcasting, it takes donations. We're a 501c4, and I know many of you out there are on fixed incomes and not necessarily able to give in large amounts, but every dollar counts. Every dollar counts. And you can go to idahosignal.com, and drop a donation in the jar there to keep us going. If you have a bit of more of a deeper pockets, then a monthly subscription, or a monthly donation is fantastic, or one big chunk is doable as well. If you want to get together with me and have a coffee or a lunch or something and talk more strategically, please, idahosignal.com, and you can reach out to us there. So we certainly do appreciate it. I'd love to keep this program on year round, and just keep you up to speed on all things Idaho, not just in the legislature, but so much more, including things like we've been tracking the Boise High School fiasco. I just got contacted by another independent news outlet about getting some more information on that story. And we also had somebody testify in committee this morning referencing what's going on at Boise High School. So we know that story is slowly getting out there, and we're just going to keep pounding away at it. So that's good. All right, folks, let's get into it. Speaking of all that, yesterday, real quick, a programming note for all of you folks out there. House Bill 380. This is the one that gives the option of the death penalty for those pedophile criminals. It passed the House and is now in the Senate Judiciary and Rules Committee, and that is going to happen later today. Is that hearing? So that bill is moving quickly. It seems like they really want to make sure this gets through before they end the session. So if you want to testify, then go over to the legislative website. It's in the Senate Judiciary and Rules Committee. That's House Bill 380. we again, I mean, it passed unanimously out of the House. We don't expect to have much resistance in the Senate, but you never know. You never know what goes on in the Senate. So be careful of that. And then also tomorrow, we're going to hopefully talk about this with Brian Allman later. There's just a new House Bill 412. It kind of makes some changes to the tax cuts that have already been passed this session. And so we want to kind of dive into that and get some answers on what this trailer bill to some of these tax cuts is all about. And that's going to have a full hearing tomorrow in the House Rev and Tax Committee. Let's go to the House real quick. It looks like they're going to take a vote on this wildfire bill, House Bill 389. They're going to unlock the machine and record the vote. Here it is. Let's see if it gets a unanimous one. Nope, we already got one in the nay column.
Has every member voted? Does any member change their vote? Skog. The clerk will lock the machine and report the pair.
Wheeler votes aye. Green votes nay.
63 aye, 6 nay, 1 absent. Excused. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 3.
All right, well, there it is. It passes the House along party lines. Along party lines there. Democrats always sticking up for the feds for some reason. I don't know. All right. Okay, yesterday, we wanted to get to this yesterday, but we didn't. We ran out of time. House Bill 350 got a new RS. And so we've seen this happen where a bill comes up, it gets ready for its hearing, but in the interim, the sponsor will get some feedback from some folks and say, okay, your feedback's really good. Let's adjust this. And what we'll do is that at the hearing for the original bill, we'll ask the committee to table that bill and substitute the new version of it and send it on its way. So that's what happened with House Bill 350. It was presented by Representative Kyle Harris. This bill simply said that the state will make sure that the money that the legislator allocates for education, that it goes to the proper, that it's being used for the proper designation. We saw that presentation before. We'll show you the clip here. Representative Clow asking Kyle Harris to differentiate between the new RS and the older bill, and then we'll move forward with that. Let's listen in.
I'm not sure if I'm getting ahead of myself on this one because we're having a hearing on House Bill 350, and I know he recommended that we hold that and that we introduce the RS. I'd like to find out what the difference between the RS and the bill is.
Yeah, please, if you would, Representative. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Clow. I went and visited with the Division of Auditing again yesterday in preparation for this hearing today. And in sitting down with them, they said in order for this to make more sense and be more easily enforceable, all we did was on line 12, we struck the word state and replaced it with the State Department of Education. That way it kind of zeroes in the responsibility on who's going to be in charge of making sure these funds are being allocated properly. Because as you know, when we allocate funds as a state, it's kind of hard to dictate who's doing what. This basically puts the onus on the State Department of Education to be responsible for how these funds are being allocated properly or misused.
All right, boom, easy enough, right? Folks, the reason why these bills are so important is because this is our tax dollars, right? Like if they pass legislation and it tells the school, oh, do we have that clip, producer? Do we have I'll give you a minute to load that clip, the $30 million. But when we designate money to go towards something, it needs to go towards that. And if it's not going towards that, it needs to come back. And the reason why this is such a big deal is because our producers are so awesome. We have this clip. This happened last year during a hearing. Watch this.
Madam Chair, Mr. Tatro, two questions. First is the follow-up on what Representative McCann was asking. And I want to understand that $330 million, you said it went to teachers. That's where it was supposed to go. It went to where the legislation said it was supposed to go. Is that correct?
Mr. Tatro.
Madam Chair, Representative Price, the legislation just says education. JFAC, rather than put 20 million here and 20 million there and have to track where it is, JFAC put it in the largest, at the time, the largest appropriation bill. But when all said and done, there's currently 7 bills. They still all get loaded into the system as public school support. So to find where that 330 is, that was what I was answering, is it's in the teacher's bill technically. But to argue, is it in teachers, is it in operations? Once everything gets transferred, it's everywhere. There is no way to track those specific dollars on the expenditure side.
Folks, that is the line of the century. Once it goes in, it's everywhere. I said 30 million. $330 million. It's everywhere. I mean, that is like, you could make bumper stickers. You could make t-shirts. That is incredible. Once it goes in, it's everywhere. And so that is why you've got Representative Kyle Harris here talking about this. And this goes to the point that was made where Representative Sauter tried to be cute with his question. Let's watch this.
Our school districts in District 1, the public asked for some significant audits to be done on their books for a few years. They ran up a total, I think, more than $50,000 for an outside firm to come in and audit them. They didn't find anything of any consequence, despite the cost for the district and in some pretty tough times. I'm real concerned about the increase of red tape in a time where we continually want to streamline things. So I'm not in support of adding to the burden in the fact that we already have the mechanism for
these politicians, man.
The school boards to look into spending, and then also in our case, the public weighed in on this, and they were successful in getting a full audit done. So I'd like to keep that as a local control issue. Thank you.
Oh, local control. Yeah. Okay. Man, don't let these guys tell you they're not a politician. Him using the term red tape when we want to make sure that the money is being spent in it properly. Red tape is specifically designed, should be designed for government agencies. Red tape is what you and I have to deal with as a normal person. It's not red tape there should be tons of red tape for the government, right? So adding red tape, adding regulations to government is a good thing. Removing red tape and regulations from private citizens and businesses so that they can flourish is a good thing. Do you see the breakdown here? Like, these people get elected and then they think they work for the government. And they say, oh, this puts too much restrictions on government. Boo-boo, hoo-hoo, cuckoo, right? Kyle Harris further explaining what this bill does. Let's listen to that.
I think we're getting hung up on teacher pay for some reason. This bill is not specifically about teacher pay. I was using the teacher pay as an example of one instance where money didn't make it to where it was supposed to go. This deals with all funding. If we passed legislation this year that deals with facility funds. So if a school asks the State Department of Education for funds to help with the facility, and then they take that money and they use part of it on facilities and part of it on busing, then that's a misuse of those funds, because that facility funding is for facilities. So if they got extra money they didn't need, they should be required to return that money so that another school could have an opportunity to have access to those facility funds. If we allocate money to maintenance, it goes to maintenance. If we allocate money for math and science, we have another bill coming that's $3 million for math and science. That money should go to programs for math and science, nothing else. That's what this bill does. If we are going to allocate money as a body and as a legislator and representatives of this state, the money should go to where we allocate that money. It's that simple. It's as black and white as it gets. But right now, we are failing audits. We have money that we know is going places it's not supposed to go, but we have no accountability mechanism. That's all this bill does, is it puts in the accountability mechanism. If they misuse those funds, or they take and use funds they didn't need and they use them for something else, now we have accountability. That's all this is about. It's not about teacher pay. It's about money that's appropriated for specific things. That's it.
That's it. That's it. Simple as pie. That's it. Representative Dale Hawkins came in here with a nice assist, bat and cleanup. Let's watch this.
Mr. Chairman, to speak in favor of what we have on the motion here. I've been in this committee now for 3 years, and I've listened to story after story of the need for more funding, and then funding not making it to the places that the public thinks the money's going to. When the gentleman on the second floor stands up at the State of the State address and tells the people of Idaho that he's seeing to it that all teachers will receive a raise of $6,400, and then we hear how this doesn't occur, the fact is that's what the public believed was going to happen, and it didn't happen. The other thing I've learned in here, and I agree with Representative Clow, that there's a lot of, I don't want to call it wiggle room, but it is very convoluted and confusing the way we do stuff. But I think something like this is going to help us down this road. This isn't asking anybody to create any new auditing system. It's talking about using what we already have and putting some teeth behind it. And I know there's been some testimony against this saying it's redundant or we don't need it. I always find that a little interesting when something's not going to have any effect, but so many are against. I think this will bring clarity to stuff. Maybe it'll help us clear up some of the confusing areas and get some more orderly performance out of these things. And for those reasons alone, I would be for this motion.
Unbelievable. Dale Hawkins, man. What a statesman. What a statesman. You know, if he wasn't so great in the legislature, I'd be like, isn't that the kind of guy you want to see as governor of Idaho? Like, shouldn't the governor of Idaho look like Dale Hawkins and act and speak like Dale Hawkins? That is a statesman. We don't need these flashy, and this may sound disparaging to Dale, but we don't need these like, flashy, tan, leather faced, Dale Hawkins, man. Dale Hawkins, the beard, the stature, he's an imposing figure, man. All right, I'm getting off tangent here. But he's exactly right. He's exactly right. This is the bill. This is the bill, man. And this look, and I love how he pointed out, if it's not going to do anything, why are so many people against it? Always, if it's not going to do anything, why are so many people coming out against it? Look, folks, it's just, I mean, Sauter let the cat out of the bag earlier, right? Oh, this is going to add red tape. This is going to add red tape to government, right? No, that's exactly where the red tape needs to be. We need government, we need red tape around the entire Boise County. It should be covered in red tape so that they can't do things, right? And let the people be free. Well, that was our last clip. The bill made it out of committee, so that's the good news. So it made it out of committee. It'll head to the floor. We'll hear again. We'll hear again opposition to it, and hopefully it makes its fast track through here. So we'll see. All right. The Senate is at ease. We're going to take a quick break, but the Senate is at ease. And right now in the House, I don't know, the camera is on the entire body. Oh, we lost a feed there for a second, and now it's flipped. We don't know what's going on in the House, but they were debating Senate Bill 1023, which dealt with medical privacy, medical freedom. This is the bill we were talking about. This we were covering the hearing on this. We were going to show you clips on this, and now we're on the floor. This is the one that will change language in our statute. We had the Coronavirus Stop Act, which was passed a couple of years ago. This updates that statute to just say, to not just deal with coronavirus, to just deal with medical issues in general. And so it really adds a lot. It changes a lot of the language in there and reinforces that a lot of the medical freedoms that we should have had during the pandemic, we should have at all times. And so this is a very important bill. Is there any audio or let's listen in if are they doing anything? We hear nothing. People are moving, and usually they'll say it's at ease if someone's, I don't see anybody standing up speaking. Oh, there is somebody in the back speaking, but there's no audio, huh? Or am I not, or is it just me? No audio. Okay. All right. No audio. They've cut debate. Imagine that. Good job, PBS. All right. We'll take a quick break. We'll see if we can catch in on whatever else they're doing. And we got a couple of the bills to cover. It's good to see you here today on Wednesday. We'll be right back.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
The dictionary defines a pledge as something that you give as a sign that you'll keep a promise. As Idahoans, that's what we're looking for in our elected leaders. A sign that they'll keep their word. Talk is cheap, and so are political promises, hidden agendas, and special interests. This is why we created the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge, affirming the values Idahoans have been living by for over 100 years, inspired by the only two documents everyone has agreed to live by. So when an Idaho legislator signs our pledge, inviting voters to publicly hold them accountable, that's what we call political integrity. The pledge restores trust and honesty between voters and their legislators. It means protecting our shared values and ensuring your voice is heard in Boise. And that is priceless. Thank your legislator for having the political courage to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge. And if they haven't, it's time to ask why.
It's time to sign. Folks, we have the Idaho, you just saw the commercial. It's the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Legislator Pledge. 10 basic statements. 41 legislators in that body down there, in the Senate and the House combined. 41 of them have signed this pledge. And currently, all are in good standing. Really good to know that. And this is all about you folks. This isn't an oath or this isn't this isn't a pledge to our organization. They're not pledging to us. They're pledging to you. They're saying they're using this to say to their constituents, here is how I plan to vote on these issues, on these values. I mean, it's values based. 41 legislators have signed the pledge. Who will be number 42? Head over to timetosign.idahopledge.com. And let's get some more folks on board. Let's get some more folks on board with this. Very good. All right. Looks like they might have fixed some stuff over there in the House. Representative Stephanie Jo Mickelson is debating on this. Let's see if we can listen in a little bit.
Private business. And so you put a business and their reputation at stake with this bill. It's not about people having personal medical freedom. I'm all for personal medical freedom. What I am concerned about is that personal medical freedom then puts other people at risk, businesses at risk, their reputations at risk. There was also a comment made about the American with Disabilities Act. In the case of an American with disabilities, that is not going to be an event where you're going to infect or get other persons sick from your condition. It's simply going to be a situation where you have to allow those people in, and that's not a problem. But when you're talking that you can't require them to wear a mask, you can't require them to leave, because it says clearly if you're a ticketing agent, if you're a sports venue, whatever, you have to take anybody. Think about if you're in a school and you got a kid that comes with lice, and this could be the same for in a movie theater or in a sporting event, and you got a kid that you can clearly see has lice. You have no way to turn them back, send them home, and have them have some sort of treatment, because it says you can't make them have treatment. Well, I guess along the vein of it's your body, it's your choice, it's my business, it's my reputation, it should be my choice. Your medical freedom is yours until the moment that you infringe upon someone else's right. And in the case of owning a business, you're the one, it's your insurance that has to pay if there's a huge event. It's your business that may end up out of business because you've had a super spreader at your event. So I'm all for having medical freedom, but it stops with businesses being able to make the decision. It's like the no shirt, no shoes, no service. We get to have an opportunity to deny access to people if we believe that they could cause problems for us and for our businesses. And with that, I would urge your no vote on this.
Further debate on the motion? The gentleman from 11.
Mr. Speaker, to debate for the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good ladies and gentlemen of the body. I think in a very logical sense, if we're looking at and discussing the topic of super spreader events, is it appropriate, or is it even something that an average business that is open to and providing customer service, whether it's providing goods or services, that they would see somebody come in and they would ask the question of every single patron that enters that business, I wonder if that person has chickenpox, or I wonder if that person has measles. You hear somebody cough and you wonder, I wonder what communicable disease that they have. I don't think that that's, we live in a world of sickness and disease, right? And somehow, after thousands and thousands of years of humanity being here, our population worldwide is standing at approximately 9 billion people. So I think that the sickness and the communicable disease thing is a negligible argument, because it's a part of life. It's always been a part of life. It's part of what makes us human. We have immune systems, and those immune systems, by and large, regulate. I think specifically what this bill addresses is the issue of the COVID vaccine mandates that were propagated against many sectors of American society following COVID-19 in 2020, and when the vaccine became available in 2021, federal workers, people that worked for the federal government in other capacities, whether they were contractors, local governments, all across the United States started mandating that this vaccine was to be taken without years worth of double-blind clinical trials. It was mandated to pregnant women, which by many in the industry had concluded that there was never a time in human history that vaccines were mandated for pregnant women. That was completely unheard of. I would like to cite that there is a thing called VAERS, or the Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System. There's a reason that that particular system exists. It exists because vaccines, by and large, are not 100% safe. They're not 100% effective. The system exists for reporting because people have been injured, they have been hurt, their lives have been changed. In fact, some people have been killed because of this vaccine or other vaccines, not specifically to just single out the COVID-19 vaccines. At the end of the day, the government's responsibility is to uphold the individual liberty of the citizen. And we must remember that our personal liberty ends when it starts to infringe upon the rights and the liberty of another. And while the government does not have the responsibility of mandating a medical treatment for somebody, no matter what that is, there is not the responsibility or the right for a private business to mandate a medical treatment or intervention upon somebody that comes into their place of business, whatever that business happens to be. I would also argue that by and large, the vast majority of businesses in the United States are not run by health professionals. They do not have a certified or licensed health professional on staff to say, well, depending upon this sickness or this illness, you should turn away this and this person, and or you should require a certain type of procedure to be undertaken by your patrons if you want or allow them to shop here. So by government not mandating, but allowing private business to mandate something that directly could impact the very life or the health of an individual, is government mandate de facto through the private business. And that's fundamentally wrong. And to that end, I would urge everybody to support this, because without our bodily autonomy, we have no other rights to ourselves. Thank you.
For debate on the motion, gentleman from 1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate the motion.
Gentleman has the floor.
So when the founders finished, when the ink hadn't quite dried on the Constitution, a group of people came to them and wanted to, they were concerned that some of the rights that individuals had weren't specifically addressed. That's what gave us the original Bill of Rights, which was originally 13 amendments. It was pared down to 10. Madison himself, Hamilton, and several others did not want that Bill of Rights because they were concerned that people would prioritize the rights, or that they would stipulate that since a particular right wasn't listed, then you don't have it. I think they were prescient in that concern. But further than that, I want to meet the person who can diagnose measles when a person walks in their door of the business of into their business. Secondly, I have, as a business owner, sent people home when they came to work sick. I didn't mandate that they get a vaccine or a particular treatment. I just sent them home. And that is not addressed in this bill. It's not reduced. It's not contemplated. What this bill does is say that if you are a place of business or a school or something else, and you see someone who has this problem, you can send them home. What you can't do is mandate the treatment that they receive for that condition. Let's not mix those two up. We're talking about simple bodily autonomy. And if we're to prioritize rights, I would aver that that is where it starts. It starts with the individual. Let's keep that in mind. This bill deserves a green light. Don't make it say something it's not saying. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For the debate on the motion. Lady from 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate against the bill.
Lady has the floor.
Okay, very
Thank you, Mr.
good.
Speaker. Just wanted to respond to some of the things
can
I've
only
heard.
hear so many
As has been said,
Democrats
there are no
go against these bills. Very good. I believe Brian Allman is with us. Let's bring Brian in here. Brian, good to see you.
Well, hello, Matt. How are you?
Sorry, we catch you mid prep there. Yeah, let's keep that debate up on the side. We'll just keep watching what they go over there too. The argument that Rubel is going to make are the arguments that we heard all through the pandemic. So I'm tired of hearing it, and I'd rather not go there again. But this bill here, I mean, this is again, this is an update to the Coronavirus Stop Act, and it does cover a lot more than just coronavirus. And so that's what's getting some people like Stephanie Joe a little upset and that sort of thing. But I think Cornell hit it on the head right there at the end. If you're an employer and you encounter somebody who's sick, you tell them to go home. Right?
Yeah. That's, the way we used to do things before we decided government has the authority to lock us in our homes. And, remember that one of the things that happened in 2020, 2021 is that a lot of private businesses engaged in mask and then vaccine mandates. But the reason they did that, some of them because they were true believers. Yeah, we need to do this. But others because they feared government intervention. They feared coercion from the government. They were afraid that if they didn't implement these things, then either the state or federal government or local health districts were going to come down on them and sanction them and put them out of business. So you take government out of the equation, and then that's going to improve things dramatically.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is a great bill. I mean, this is the thing that like we've been fighting for a long time, and there's been versions of this bill trying to make it through. It already made it through the Senate, which is always the hardest hurdle for something like this. So, as much as we're going to see debate on this, I don't particularly see this thing failing. At this point.
That was pretty short debate for Representative Rubel.
Yeah, I mean, I think she knows where the wins are. She just needed to get on record for that. Here's the sponsor of the bill. It looks like he's going to close it out here. We do want to make sure. We'll keep it up here and see if we can watch the vote live. But earlier, just real quickly about the wildfire, we opened the show where we caught it right at the moment they were talking about that wildfire bill, and Josh Tanner called it his favorite bill of the session. Yeah, the best bill of the session. Yeah, well, I mean, is this something that you followed? This whole idea of the feds not taking care of our wildfires properly when they're inside of the Idaho borders on federal lands?
Mm-hmm. That's been a big concern. I'm definitely not an expert in wildland management or fire management, but I have watched people who know more about it talk about it. Dar Moon, Idaho GOP chairwoman Dorothy Moon's husband, he is very much aware of these things, and he did a talk in the legislature in an interim committee last fall about the fires and the problems they had with the federal government. So yeah, bringing jurisdiction down to the state level instead of relying on some federal government agency to decide how we're going to handle this. They don't necessarily have the same stake in it that we do. Even though it might be federal lands, it's still our lands in Idaho, and it borders our farms and pastures and places that we live and places that we like to go visit. So it's it's very much should be our responsibility to take care of those things, and I think the state would do a better job than the federal government.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're here, and to be able to maintain our own lands quickly and efficiently is best. They always say local control, right? Local control. Okay. Representative Beiswinger still closing out debate on this bill. We'll keep tabs on that. One thing we can step away from it for a second. I want to get your take on this. There's a House concurrent resolution that passed the House. It's now in the Senate, and this deals with House Concurrent Resolution 17, dealing with just addressing violence, political violence that has been popping up in the state of Idaho. And we got the vote coming here. All right, let's listen to the vote, and then we'll jump into 17.
And
things are very fluid right here. Oh yeah, right out the gate. So interesting though.
Yep. Does any members change their vote? Clerk will rock the machine and report the pairs.
And the usual suspects
Burgoyne votes aye.
joining the
Wheeler votes
Democrats.
47 ayes, 23 nays, majority having voted.
Although I'm surprised to see Manwaring on the other side, on the green side of that one.
He's always a little bit unpredictable.
He is unpredictable sometimes, yeah. But McCann, Souter, yeah.
All right, that goes to the governor's desk, and I believe that's veto proof, just barely though.
Yeah, well,
it wasn't on the Senate side.
It wasn't on the Senate side, correct? But hopefully, I think at this point he'd be a fool to go against this. I mean, the winds of change, Maha, anti-pandemic stuff. It's where we're at right now. Okay, fantastic. We'll continue to keep an eye on the House. They might just go ahead and adjourn because it is just past the top of the hour over there. But because the Senate has. All right, let's get back into this. House Concurrent Resolution 17, Brian. It passed the House, and it made its way over into the committee in the Senate. And this deals with addressing just the political violence. Let's listen to Senator Taves here present the bill.
And before you today is House Concurrent Resolution 17. It's a resolution standing up against political violence and intimidation. The unfortunate reality is that this legislation is actually important because it details timeless truths that are relevant due to recent situations in Idaho. We've had a few situations up north, and so I'm just going to read a few lines of this, but I'm not going to keep you too long because I know we're at the end of a long committee. So whereas the foundation of a free and civil society is the ability to engage in open and respectful discourse without fear of violence or retribution. And whereas recent events in North Idaho have involved acts of violence and intimidation, including the disruption of a public meeting by pulling a fire alarm, an assault on a trustee, the arson of a legislator's place of business, threats to burn down a legislator's residence, and threats to murder a legislator. And whereas these acts of violence and intimidation are unacceptable in a constitutional republic and have no place in the political process of the state of Idaho, and whereas political disagreements must be resolved through debate, due process, and democratic means, rather than through threats, destruction, or harm to individuals or property.
Yeah, very good. Brian, I think this is great because we always hear this kind of thing, this kind of rhetoric coming from the left about how violent things are against Democrats or against a protected class, And here we have some footage here. Here we're talking about actual incidences that don't get national coverage. They don't even get statewide coverage for the most part. And if they do, they're spun differently. But we just saw Representative Cornell Razor speak up. He owned an Army surplus store up in up in Sandpoint. And here it is, the day, I think this was this the day after 4th of July or somewhere?
It was 4th of July. It was that evening because there were fireworks going off, and they originally thought it was a stray firework, but no.
That's right. Yeah, they originally thought it was a stray firework, but it was actually arson. Somebody actually set that place on fire. Maybe they used a firework or something along those lines, some sort of explosive incendiary device. But he lost a beloved spot. I mean, this was an Army surplus store. It's been an anchor in the community for a long time, and this was his entire business. I mean, this is what he does for a living. He owns this small business, and now he's a legislator. So, I mean, this is salt of the earth guys, people, that own small businesses, and this happened to his business, and he was targeted by a lunatic on the left,
According to the court, yes.
Yeah, according to the court, that's right. Yeah, and then you have stuff like you always hear like, oh, free speech doesn't cover yelling fire in a crowded theater, right? And what that really means is like you're not supposed to cause a panic. Right, that's you can say fire if there really is a fire, but what you also can't do is pull a fire alarm when there isn't an actual fire. And watch this. Here's a compilation. Yeah, this was happening at the North Idaho College Board of Trustees meeting. There were some contentious things going on, and somebody pulled a fire alarm. And everybody rushed outside and they had to get through because there was the fire department showed up and everything. And this is causing a panic. And luckily nobody got hurt. Nothing happened. Oh, look who it is. Look who it is. The alleged fire alarm puller herself is a leftist. And then do we have any more footage, guys? Anything else? Is that all we have from footage wise?
Remind me, was anyone held responsible or accountable for pulling that fire alarm?
Well, that person there that you saw was brought in for questioning. They said they had footage in the building of the hallway where that fire alarm was, and she was the only person to have passed by that fire alarm. But there were no charges brought against her, and charges were dropped, and there were no other suspects. So. Such is life in Coeur d'Alene with the Coeur d'Alene PD.
You hear about political violence, and if you listen to, say, mainstream news, that you think it's all coming from the right. You think it's all white supremacy and racism and, sexism and anti-trans and all these bigots out there committing violence. But you actually look at the numbers, and it's hardly anything at all. Meanwhile, we have angry leftists setting Teslas on fire nationwide as we speak, with the tacit approval of leftist politicians. We remember the Summer of Love in 2020, where, according to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, riots are just the language of the unheard. And, Kamala Harris was soliciting money to bail these people out so they could get back on the streets and keep up their riots. Political violence in America, at least right now, really only goes one way. And yet you'll still see leftist politicians say that, that's just free speech, whereas speech on our side, that's committing violence. You're making minorities and transgender people feel unsafe by your speech. So they've had this double standard. So resolutions are just statements, but it's good to see such a statement going through the process.
Yeah, it's good to see that our side's taking it seriously and pushing back and saying, let's get this through. So it passed the House. We'll see what happens in the Senate. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but one thing you did just point out there is is all of these accusations that there's some sort of genocide being perpetrated against these protected classes, like minorities in America or transgender people, gender identity folks or whatever. But where the real issue is with women, are women in sports, women in prisons, women in sensitive areas like locker rooms and bathrooms. We are seeing this over and over and over again, where people in positions of power are not taking this stuff seriously. So thank God we have someone like Representative Barbara Ehart, who's pushing through a bill right now. It passed the Senate. It had its hearing it passed the House, and it had its hearing in the Senate. Here's Representative Ehart presenting House Bill 264 and some of what it does.
Are going to ask that this also be sent to the 14th Amendment or 14th Order, as the Sheriff's Association has met with both the chairman and myself and have asked for some language that adds a little more clarification. Having said that, before you, we have a piece of legislation that is following in the steps that Idaho has already taken great efforts to go. And that would be in ensuring the safety and the privacy and the dignity of our women. This one happens to encompass 3 areas. That would be our women's prisons. And I think it's important to note that according to our director, we have 75 confirmed cases of gender dysphoria. So it would be in our women's prisons, our juvenile detention centers, domestic violence centers, and of course at the university level in particularly targeting our university dorm rooms so that a biological female doesn't find out when she goes to school and she's in her dorm rooms and she has to call mom and dad and say, my roommate is male. That's not fair.
I mean, there's so many different scenarios that are completely real. They're actually happening. You know, we broke earlier this year. You know, I had a parent reach out and say, or a relative reach out and say that their daughter in high school got roomed with a transgender boy, or whatever you want to call it, a boy who thinks he's a girl, on an overnight trip for band or sports or something like that. So these things do happen, and people, these young women could be put at grave risk. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say it's the, you know, for the men who, you know, mentally ill men who think that they're women and demand society pretend that they're women, the existence of real women is offensive to them, and they want to try and break down those differences and barriers, and that includes being able to traipse into the women's restroom or use a women's locker room, and you know, a lot of the testimony that came up this morning, I was you know, watching part of the hearing, it was exactly that, trying to turn around and say, no, I'm the victim because you won't let me go in and pretend to be a woman in the woman's room.
Yeah, are these folks the most misogynistic people ever?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, trans women, right? Is that what we'd call them? Men who want to be women, they call themselves transgender women. Transgender women are the epitome. It's like the pinnacle of misogyny. That's where they are. There's something there. There's some messaging there that we can craft, I think. Okay, well, Thad Butterworth testified. I believe he's chairman of the Ada County GOP, isn't he? And he showed up to testify with some real world examples, and one that you might be familiar with.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Thad Butterworth. I am the Ada County Republican chair, and I am representing them today. I'm here to urge you to vote for House Bill 264. One of the things that has been called into question is there an actual threat here? And I would just like to remind this committee of a couple of instances. One happened just a few years ago in Loudoun County, Virginia, where a female student was assaulted by a transgender student who was in the wrong biological bathroom. It resulted in a $30 million lawsuit to the district. It also, in several political publications and others, it was called out as a major failure of that school district to protect their students. The information has already been brought up about the prisons as well. The statistics on how many female prisoners are assaulted by transgender prisoners is pretty stunning. But even here locally, we've had an issue with this just recently, where a local school district had a biological male in a female locker room and was caught self-pleasuring. And this was traumatizing to several of the students. I think we need to have good and reasonable protection for women, especially in female spaces. So I would urge you to vote yes on H264.
All right, Brian, you love to see men standing up there defending women. Did he might have just broken anything. The story we reported happened in the restroom, and he said locker room. Is there a new story?
I'm not aware. Maybe it's conflating.
Yeah, I think so. We'll take it as that. But,
I was so glad he did that. I was getting ready to go. I've got my homeschool class on Wednesday morning, so I wasn't able to go testify or go take part, but I was watching, and I was hoping somebody would bring that up, because that is the perfect counter to all the people who were testifying and saying that this isn't a problem. There's nobody said there's any problem. You're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist, and you're just targeting trans people. No, there is a problem, and you guys just won't admit it because it goes against your ideology.
Yeah. And Ehart opened up by saying we've already had legislation to take care of this in other areas, and well, newsflash, that legislation, even though it's now sitting in a courtroom, we still have the problem. So the problems are it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. But now I have to shift gears here, and we have to share this clip because there was Senator Ruchti once again trying to latch on to some sort of part of the bill and really create I think a red herring at this point with all this stuff. But let's listen to his pushback.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that's how this reads. If you read subparagraph 2, well, let's start with this. The remedy section is great. I agree with her on that. But that's for remedies. If you want to get a remedy, if you want to file a lawsuit, then in order to file that lawsuit, you have to be able to show, let's see, an individual is required by the covered entity to share required. So I agree with that. But the meat of the bill requires universities to designate these facilities as either male or female as defined in the statute. And under 67-9802 subparagraph 2, there is no permissive, or there is no allowance for the students to invite a male or female in. If a male or female goes into the room or even the bathroom of the dorm room that's designated for the opposite sex, they're in violation of this statute. I think this creates real problems for the universities. If we're going to allow for young men and young women to have opposite sex over, use their bathroom, use their bedrooms, then we better say it in the statute. Otherwise, this is the state getting into the bedrooms of college students.
You're welcome to comment on that, Ms. Nolan.
Sure, Chair. Senator,
we can get out of that. I mean, come on, Brian. Are you serious?
I'm starting to wonder about Senator Ruchti here. He's worried that this law will prevent college students from sleeping with each other. The other day, he was worried about what a law would do to sex toy shops. It's and yet he's the one who's concerned about the government getting into people's bedrooms. It's going everywhere else. And that's the whole problem.
That's the whole problem. And that's the state of the Democrat Party today. I mean, it is not the Democrat Party of even the chief, well, I don't have to go down that road, but even of the Clinton era, of the Bill Clinton era.
Yeah,
right?
I had a tweet this morning said that the JFK files are all in the news right now. So I said if you went back and told JFK what his party would be doing in 2025, that their top priority would be ensuring that men could use women's restrooms, his head would explode.
Yeah, I thought that's where you're headed. He'd have shot himself. Exactly. Like it's incredible where they are. And here's the thing, they just go along with it. They go along with it. And I don't know, like if you were to sit, do I head down to Pocatello and say, hey, Ruchti, let's go get a steak dinner? Like, tell me what do you actually believe? Mm-hmm. Do you actually want to protect girls from these mentally ill predators, from these mentally ill folks who I mean, they go into these bathrooms and they ruin girls' lives? Is that who you really want to protect? Is this similar to like the ACLU defending the Nazis in Skokie, Illinois? Is that what he thinks he's doing? Where he's just like, you know what? Someone's got to stand up for these folks, for free speech, right? When the Nazis wanted to march in Skokie, Illinois, the ACLU came out and the town didn't want to do it. They said, nope, they have a free speech right to do it. So I will defend the worst among us for their speech. Is that similar here? Is that what he's trying to do?
I don't
Democrats?
think so. I think the Democrat line right now is that, there's no, that all transgender people, all LGBTQ plus whatever people are inherently victims, and that there's some cognitive dissonance there when there's clearly these male prisoners who claim to be female just so they can have free reign at the women's prison, there is some cognitive dissonance where they'll either explain it away, or they'll say it's not happening, or they'll just close their ears and their eyes and pretend it's not happening. But I truly believe they think that they are on the side of the oppressed, the victims, just like they cast it in the same light as marching with African Americans in the civil rights era, or trying to free the slaves, or whatever else people were doing to try and help the victims, the people who are oppressed. I really think that's where they are, but they're incredibly out of touch with the American people. The biggest ad of the 2024 presidential election was one where they said that Harris is for they, them, Trump is for you. Right. And that's that really resonated, because even the amount of self-identifying transgender people is an incredibly small percentage, and obviously there's different issues there. But are the Democrats ready to sacrifice everyone else for that tiny group? I guess that goes along with the oppressed mentality. They think they're on the side of the little guy.
Sacrifice was a good word to use there. There's a lot of sacrificing that the left seems to like to do to appease their overlords. Did I hear that right? Ehart said that there were 75 men currently in the women's prison system that are gender dysphoria. She said something like 75. And maybe they're in the men's prison trying to get into the women's prison, but there were 75 people on record. That is a heck of a lot of people. 75 men who are claiming to be women and want to be put in women's prison.
Well, there's a word, I probably won't pronounce it right, but there's a word that they don't talk about, autogynephilia. Men who are aroused by the thought of being women.
Yeah.
And that's probably what we're seeing there. Didn't she also say that a lot of the folks who are put in the women's prison by claiming to be transgender are already convicted of sexual crimes?
Yes.
I mean, that should be a big red flag right there.
Exactly. Yet we have people in these positions of power in our correction system, judges. I mean, who knows? But like, the fact that we have to have this bill is such a symptom that we are a sick society. Even here in Ruby Red, Idaho, folks, you can't escape it. So we encourage you to keep watching this program, keep following Brian and all of his great work. Brian, where can people follow you and keep tabs on your work?
GemStateChronicle.com did a big article yesterday about the administrative state and administrative rules, trying to move those into statute. It's a big effort. Also at GemStateBrian on X.
Yes, fantastic. Hey, you said X. Good job, Brian. He's transitioning, folks, in a good way. All right, Brian, we'll check in with you tomorrow, brother. Take care.
Have a good day.
All right. Always love it when Almond can come by. When Almond can come by. Yeah, folks, man, so good to see some men step up there trying to help defend our girls and testify. That was great to see Butterworth doing that. And also, folks, you folks out there are making a difference. I'm telling you, you're making a difference. You're making the calls, you're doing the emails, you're staying engaged, sharing this program. We got to get these clips out here. What we're going to do, we're going to clip out the entire debate that happened on Senate Bill 1023 about your medical privacy, medical rights and stuff. We're going to upload that and have that full debate, because you got to see who's for it and who's against it. We know all the Democrats were against it. That's a no-brainer. But then you got to look and see who are the folks that keep consistently standing up and not fighting for your rights. You got to know who those folks are, folks. Folks. Do I need a new word for folks, people, my friends, my colleagues, my patriots? We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.
I think it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.